So now I'd want to get into actually stylizing and exaggerating things, and I would want to start with the most obvious thing here, which would be exaggerating these proportions that I've already talked about and manipulating those. So this is like the simplest way to go about it, is if you move these set points in different directions. So for example, you can go in and you can decide that you maybe want to have a short torso, so you're moving this part and you're shortening that, and maybe you want to have long legs, so you're changing that as well. And I'm keeping this very rudimentary just for the sake of demonstration of how you might think about these things. So something like this. And then, you know, you would fit the rib cage in there somehow, and the pelvis as well. And you might keep this general relationship between them the same. And then you can decide, maybe I want to have a very large head. So you just take the head, make it bigger, and maybe you want to have longer arms. So in here, what I've done, let's not even say large head, let's just say it's a very high head, so it's very long like this. So in here, what I've done essentially is I've just taken one dimension, which is the height of something, and I've extended and manipulated that. And I can do that however I please. I can do it the other way around. So I might take the torso and I might make this a lot longer. I might, and this might be more like a goblin sort of proportion. I might take the legs here and make those very short. And then maybe I can make the arms fairly short as well and have the head in here. So again, I've really only manipulated one part of the body here of the mannequin, and I've already gotten a very big amount of you know, variability and a very different proportion already. So that's one thing that you can do, one way to go about exaggerating and manipulating shapes. But we could take this a step further, and we can start manipulating things in terms of width as well. And the way I want to explain this, I think, is by approaching each one of these building blocks that we have in here separately, and seeing how you can manipulate any of these in any axis. So whether that be height, whether that be depth or width, you can manipulate those just the same way that I've very simply manipulated the height here, and you can get some very interesting and very different effects if you do that. I'm just gonna lower the opacity here, and I'm gonna draw over it and talk about the decisions that I make and how I edit the curves to achieve a more stylized look. And also, I won't only just edit the curves, but I also edit the proportions a little bit to get an even more stylized look as well. So from the very start, as I've already mentioned, there are certain curves and certain apexes to different anatomical parts and different muscles. And what I want to do essentially is I want to exaggerate those. That's a part of what I'm doing, and then another part is just changing up sizes. So I think it would be really cool if I just make this arm or this forearm bigger. And since this is the curve, I want to find the apex. Maybe the apex is right there. This is my curve that I'm exaggerating, and I just want to make that stronger. So that might turn out something like this. So now I have a stronger apex. You see how this curve is stronger than the original one, and on the other side as well, I can make this curve a bit more exaggerated, a bit stronger, and I'm also finding a break to it so that it's not even. It's not an even curve. And maybe I'll make the whole forearm a little bit longer as well. And now, since I'm exaggerating things and I'm making the forearm larger, maybe I can make the upper arm a bit more narrow to get some contrast that way. And I know that the bicep will have an apex here, whereas the tricep will have an apex there. Just the abstract curve will. So I'm trying to use that now and to exaggerate the curve of the bicep right there, and to exaggerate the curve of the tricep here. And then obviously the deltoid will have a curve somewhere in the upper third, so I could use that and get a very cool shape going as well. And then I can get some inside shapes, and this is more anatomical, but they're also guided by the same principles. So, and maybe I should overlap the forearm this way more so. And there's some inside shapes there which don't really matter in this context. And I want to make the hand larger as well. so that the whole thing is more exaggerated. And I'm applying the same sort of curve thinking to the fingers as well. For example, the thumb here could be very very curved in this side, so as to be even more exaggerated.